At Amazon's What's Next with AWS event in April, Matt Garman, the CEO of Amazon Web Services, said that the company will continue hiring developers even as AI tools reshape how they work. Software engineers are still important to Amazon. And he wasn't just talking about experienced engineers either. Garman said Amazon plans to hire 11,000 interns in 2026. That sounds pretty promising in today's job market, especially with tech layoffs rising, fears around AI replacing jobs, and some tech leaders warning that AI coding tools could seriously disrupt the profession. At the same time, Amazon itself laid off around 16,000 corporate employees earlier this year. The company said those cuts were not mainly driven by AI. Amazon remains committed to our internship program as an important pathway to finding the next generation of leaders and builders. Garman also said the idea of replacing junior employees with AI was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So, why are companies still hiring junior developers? Boris Cherny, the creator of Claude Code at Anthropic, said in an interview that 2026 will bring insane developments in AI. That includes a major shift in the kind of work software engineers do across the industry. For decades, software engineers were the disruptors. Now, they're the ones being disrupted. For many developers, AI has already changed how they work, and even whether they can find a job in the first place. AI coding tools like Cursor, Claude Code, and Replit are already becoming standard across the industry. Executives at Google and Meta have also spoken openly about how much code is now being generated by AI. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said AI could handle the work of a mid-level engineer within this year. Former GitHub CEO Thomas Dohmke sees coding as two different things: production and creativity. As AI takes over more of the production side, he believes engineers may end up focusing more on creative work instead. OpenAI president Greg Brockman said software engineers could eventually become more like quality controllers. So far, vibe coding has actually taken away a lot of the coding that was pretty fun. And that's part of why AI is creating a lot of mixed signals in the job market right now. Some data points to job growth, while others point to companies cutting jobs, even as businesses continue hiring and investing before anyone really knows what the long-term outcome looks like. At the same time, many companies still don't know how to translate AI tools into real business value, creating a gap between what the technology can do and what companies can realistically implement. Apollo global management economist Torsten Slok argues that AI could follow something known as the Jevons paradox, where making work more efficient can actually increase demand instead of reducing it. His argument is that if AI lowers the cost of professional work in areas like law, consulting, or finance, demand for those services could grow enough to create even more jobs overall. That's very different from the idea that AI will simply wipe out huge parts of the white-collar workforce. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has also pushed back against some of the more extreme predictions around AI wiping out white-collar jobs. Part of that was aimed at Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, who warned that AI would eventually eliminate half of all entry-level white-collar roles and push unemployment much higher. Huang said those kinds of forecasts are counterproductive. These kinds of comments are not helpful, adding that some executives can fall into a God complex. He also argued that this kind of rhetoric could discourage younger people from going into fields the economy still needs. Huang said AI has already created more than 500,000 jobs over the last 2 years, and described the technology as an important part of U.S. reindustrialization. But at the same time, the labor market itself tells a much more complicated story. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, 86 tech companies cut more than 80,000 jobs, the highest level in 3 years. Meta announced plans to cut around 8,000 jobs this May during another major restructuring push. Oracle eliminated somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 positions in March. Block reduced its workforce from 10,000 employees to 6,000. Snap also announced layoffs in April, cutting roughly 1,000 employees, or about 16% of its workforce. In many of these cases, companies pointed to AI as part of the reason behind the cuts. Some experts, like Mark Andreessen, argue that the bigger reasons behind these layoffs are overhiring during the pandemic and higher interest rates, with AI becoming a convenient excuse that companies can point to. Some executives have even pushed back on the idea completely. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney, for example, said the company's layoffs had nothing to do with AI. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman partially agrees with that idea. He said some companies are using AI washing to justify layoffs that likely would have happened anyway. At the same time, he also said AI is already replacing some jobs. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's some AI washing where people are blaming AI for layoffs that they would otherwise do. And then there's some real displacement by AI of different kinds of jobs. That debate has already started reaching governments. A Chinese court ruled that replacing a worker with AI is not a valid reason for termination, putting a legal limit on how companies can use automation when making employment decisions. It also reflects a broader approach in China, where the government is placing more emphasis on job stability as AI adoption grows. Western countries don't really have comparable protections. In the United States, for example, employment works on an at-will basis in every state except Montana, meaning companies can fire employees for almost any reason that is not specifically prohibited by law. And being replaced by AI is not one of those protected categories. The contrast highlights how differently governments are starting to balance automation and labor protections. OpenAI's own economic research team released a report looking at AI's near-term impact across more than 900 occupations, covering nearly all U.S. employment. The report found that around 18% of jobs face a relatively higher short-term automation risk. It also identified 3 common patterns among higher-risk jobs: high AI exposure, low need for human involvement, and limited or uncertain demand growth to offset potential job losses. At the same time, the report noted that exposure to AI does not currently appear to be strongly connected to actual employment declines. All of this disruption can be stressful, but it doesn't necessarily mean the jobs themselves disappear. Software engineering has already gone through a pretty rapid shift, with changing skill requirements and fewer entry-level openings. But demand still hasn't dried up. Data from tech hiring firm TrueUp shows software engineering job postings are now at their highest level in more than 3 years, with over 67,000 open roles. Anthropic is launching a new enterprise AI services company alongside Blackstone, Hellman and Friedman, and Goldman Sachs to help businesses integrate AI into their operations. The focus is mainly on mid-sized companies that don't have the internal resources to build these systems on their own. That means working directly with clients to figure out use cases, build tools, and integrate them into existing workflows. The model combines engineering, consulting, and long-term support to bring AI into day-to-day business operations. And according to Anthropic, demand for applied AI is already exceeding the industry's current capacity to deliver it, especially outside of large enterprises. So, after all of this, companies may still need junior developers. What Garmin was arguing is a bit more nuanced than just saying AI won't affect jobs. His point is that Amazon still needs engineers, and a lot of them, just not engineers whose main value is writing syntax all day. He said the role itself is already changing as new AI tools automate parts of the work. The jobs will be a little bit different. Being an expert at writing a Java code snippet is probably going to be less valuable in the future than it was a couple of years ago. Instead, Garmin emphasized broader skills like building applications and solving customer problems. He said technical knowledge still matters, especially when working with customers using cloud services. Whether younger developers see that as an opportunity or a warning probably depends on how fast these tools improve from here. As Garmin put it himself, "Your job is going to change. There's no two ways about it." But if you want to see how these same changes are affecting the wider job market, go watch this video next on why entry-level jobs don't exist anymore. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Cheers!